There's something eerily creepy about serial killers that were never caught. They could be across the street from you. They could be your friend. They could even be your parent. Today, we're going to be looking at 3 of the worst serial killers who were never caught and may still be around to this day. The flat tire murderer killed many people across the United States of America, but was identified as a serial killer in Florida in 1975. He got his name from 2 murders in Miami. He would target young women who were driving alone, wait for them to leave and deflate their tires. When they came back, he would offer to fix them, but instead kidnapped the women, raped them, stabbed them, and threw their bodies into the canal. The police also linked him to 12 other murders in southern Florida, where he usually dumped the bodies in canals after raping them. Upon investigation, the police also suggest he could be responsible for other killing sprees in California, Utah, Washington, and Colorado, bringing his victim count to a total of potentially 35, making him one of the worst serial killers in US history. Some people think he may have died as the killing stopped so abruptly, but it's not uncommon for serial killers to just stop, as in the case of the Golden State Killer and the Grim Sleeper. It may be that the flat tire murders are just unattributed victims to a serial killer who has already been caught and not confessed to them. Some people suggest that the infamous serial killer Ted Bundy may have been responsible, as he also kidnapped, raped, and murdered young women, but there's no evidence to support he may have been in Florida at the time. These murders are still unsolved and likely will stay that way forever, as so little is known about the killings. The monster of the Mangones. This Colombian serial killer may have been one of the most evil people to ever walk the earth. He operated out of the city of Cali and was one of the worst serial killers in Colombian history. He murdered 38 boys over the course of the 1960s and 70s, performing horrific torture with needles on his victims. His actions led to a mass panic in the city, with some believing he was a myth. The police tried to quell fears by saying the bodies were dug up from a graveyard and not murdered. All the bodies that were found had been tortured and raped by the monster. One child was found without eyeballs and another had been mummified. Most of the victims were found with needle marks in their hearts. It's very likely that the killer had clinical vampirism, which is the need to drink human blood, which would explain the needles. He was also an extreme sexual sadist and probably enjoyed watching other people suffer. There was no consistency in how he got rid of the bodies, they were just found around the city. The killing stopped in the 1970s. The Chicago Strangler. You may think that serial killers don't exist in the modern world anymore because forensics have gotten so effective, but you'd be wrong. There's a serial killer who killed as recently as 2018. The Chicago Strangler is a serial killer who usually strangles black sex workers in high crime areas of Chicago. Then he would dump their bodies in a place where there was no one around, such as an abandoned building or alleyway. The Strangler could have killed up to 75 people, but 55 is a more likely number, between 2001 and now. His last attributed victim was September 10th, 2018. The Chicago Strangler is very much still out there, and could still be killing. The Chicago police put together their investigation in 2018 that found 51 cases of strangulation or asphyxiation having gone unsolved. But that number increased up to 55 as the year continued. One of the earliest potential victims was found with skin underneath her fingernails, and when recently checked for DNA in an FBI database, it was linked to a 56-year-old homeless man in Tampa, Florida. While he was arrested on a charge of first-degree murder, he was released due to lack of evidence, and the police likely don't consider him a suspect. While the Chicago Strangler is technically still just a theory, it's very unlikely that all the similarities between the 75 strangulations were just coincidental, so if you're ever in Chicago, you could walk past a man on their way to find his next victim. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe as it really helps the channel. Leave a comment for which serial killer you found the creepiest.